Welcome everybody to episode 1 of the Pitch Perspective. I'm your host, Steven Ramirez, and today, like every day on this podcast, we're going to be talking lower league soccer. So let's get to it. So first we have a club highlight. What we're going to be looking at is a club highlight plus an interview. If you listened previously to the Pitch Perspective, one very supportive club was Unity FC. The Ford family, Unity FC family, has been a very big supporter of mine, whether it was my writing, my podcasting. So I definitely wanted to bring them and Mark back on for the podcast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and roll an interview that I had with Mark, and really going to be talking about where they're at as a club, especially talking about the hiatus that they had mentioned on Twitter. And then we're also going to talk about what the future may be with Unity FC. So why don't you go ahead, listen in, and we're going to go ahead and go into our first topic after the interview. With me today is Mark Ford of Unity FC, everyone's, I would say, favorite club out there. At least it's definitely mine. Welcome to the Pitch Perspective again, Mark.
It's great to be Steven. Makes me happy that Pitch Perspective is back. Always one of my favorite podcasts talking about grassroots soccer. So this is a great honor.
Yeah, and I definitely, now that it's, coming back again, wanted to talk to you first, just because I think you, the Ford family, Unity FC, the Unity FC family has been some of my, if not my biggest supporters, which is so nice. You guys are on the opposite side of the country, and you guys have shown a lot of love for what I do. So it's just I'm glad to be talking to you again.
Thank you, Steven. That's, you guys have been a great supporter of ours. You've been with us since day one, and it just fits in with, it's not lip service when we say hashtag Unity Nation, Unity Family. We honestly do care about our fans and our friends and our family, and we've been lucky enough to make many close personal relationships with people all across the world, and you've always been right there at the forefront. And then the baby's got to be getting big now, right?
Yeah, so she is going to be 4 in a month. And when Mark talks about family, it's really true. When I was having my daughter, they actually sent like baby shower gifts, and it was just like some of the most special things. So Unity always has a great place in my heart. But one of the things, I wanted to have you on, obviously a few weeks ago, or a month ago at this point, you guys kind of made an announcement. I'm just going to read it shortly. It just says, "We must share with you the very difficult decision to not have a Unity FC playing season this summer. Many of the behind-the-scenes details have prevented us from having a seamless 2023. Skip a little bit. We have loved every minute and are blessed to have been your team for the past 5 years. You will all forever be close to our hearts and wish you all the best." Now, I know one of the things on here you just mentioned about not playing for the 2023 season. Where is the club at, and, is the plan to have Unity FC come back?
Well, yeah, it was, the plan is to play, obviously, 2023, and just in Florida, it's very difficult to get a league together to play in. We'll just leave that at that. Our plan is to keep it alive, keep it going. We're hopeful that in the winter, we can return and get back to our roots, so to speak. Do some tournament play, maybe chase another Florida championship, things of that nature. So it's not the door's not shut. And honestly, Steven, if we were to receive a phone call or an email today or tomorrow, we could go. We'd figure it out. I mean, we have what we need in place. We have the organization. We have the resources. It's just the more these things drag out every year, February turns to March, March turns to April, April turns to May, and you don't have a schedule, and you have great confusion and great uncertainty, and it's very hard to field a team. It's very hard to get sponsorship. It's just an impossible situation, and it's not fair to the players as well. So that's kind of where we were at. And then also we did have a number of players playing professional right now, and so it'd be very difficult to keep them appraised of what's going on when we don't have a really clear direction. So we just decided to kind of throw up the stop sign for now.
Well, and I think just the concept of what you guys did in general, about what Unity is. One of my favorite systems that I know we'll talk about here in a little is the try-in system and not the try-out system. But it's things like those that have kind of like opened up your club to the caliber of players that are now playing, professionally, or the players that you've given the opportunity to hone their craft, to get them to the next level. So, and I think you said before, it's not really, um, about the players or what they've done. There's just situations that unfortunately happen, within lower league soccer.
Oh, definitely. It's we've had a great run with United Women's Soccer, and it just didn't work out this year for whatever reason. And but it is about the team. It's about the girls, and the great sadness is that the girls are really upset that they want to play, but they also understand that the way things were, it was very difficult.
Cool. Well, let's get to some of the more hopeful, some of the better news, right? So one of the things I did want to talk about is that try-in system. Could you kind of explain a little bit to, some of the people out there what the try-in system is and how it differs from the tryout?
Oh, absolutely. Coach Chris Ford, your head coach, he does a great job with the team and on leadership. We call the lion that stuff. Maybe not build players. There's no guarantee that when Coach Chris sets that 18 woman game day lineup or 20 women, depending if we're playing in the tournament, that you will roster, but you are a part of the team. If you want to come and practice, you want to train, you want to work out, we're not going to cut you. We're not going to send you home. You're on the team. You're part of the team. Again, no guarantee. The stakes are high when you're talking UWS and some of the tournaments that we play in. And we do have a national sponsor in Squincher, so we have to have a representative product on the field. But she allows them that ability to be a part of the team, be a part of the family, work on their game. And sometimes, Steven, a player that can't crack the 18 or the 20, down the road they do when they never leave the lineup. Or maybe it's just they never do crack that, but they're happy to be part of the team and part of the family, and they're having a good time, and improves their game. So for us, we don't believe in cutting people, and we also won't make them pay either. We've covered to date 100% of the soccer related costs. It's not pay to play. We've covered all the freight for 5 years.
Well, and I think that's awesome. It's like you're more rewarding people for passion, rather than, where they want to use you to kind of get to the next step. Now, what type of players, or have you seen players that maybe came into the try-in and weren't really a part of the 18, but kept coming back in and finally made that jump?
Oh, we definitely have had players. If we go back to the beginning, you're familiar with Caitlin Holborn. Caitlin Holborn was just kind of, right on the edge of 18 or the 20, and she ended up, getting in there and never left. Became a captain, a leader on the team. Ended up going to Weber University scholarship. So that's a good example of the Caitlin Holborn going back to the back, and that's just a prime example. If we had cut her, sent her home, we would have deprived ourselves of ending up with a rock star player. and then it also may prevent her from going to college. So it works both ways.
Yeah, and I mean, soccer has to be about giving people an opportunity, whether that's professional or an opportunity to get into college to further their education. I mean, that's just incredible, and they're going to keep that, with them, knowing that Unity FC helped that out. I know over time as well, you guys have worked on, establishing different relationships, whether that's like with different pro clubs that were coming in, or being a representative of various leagues. Can you kind of talk about how you started some of those relationships? I would say with like the leagues, I believe you guys had a USL coming in Daytona, right? And you guys were working with them pretty closely or talking with them pretty closely.
Yeah, that was back initially. Before it was EWS, USL wanted us to be Daytona. The Daytona franchise in USL wanted us to be their representative in USLW. It didn't really fly, so USLW is really taking off in Florida now. We're a little late to the party for 2023, but I mean that's definitely something we got. So that's what's going on with that. But it was more, that was a previous thing with the USL.
I mean, I would just say even getting an opportunity to kind of have those relationships is actually pretty difficult, with others. And while they may not have worked out, how do you feel that Unity FC was able to maybe bridge some of those gaps?
Basically, my mindset is like owner. GM. I stay out of the soccer realm of it. That's Chris. He does such a great job, and Harley and Dane and the whole Ford, all the Ford sisters and females. So I focus more on the marketing and the putting the show on, so to speak. And it just it's at the dartboard. Generally, when I'll reach out to if it's a league or somebody that I think that we could do business with, I just send them an honest and impassioned email or letter stating who we are, what we do, what our objective is, how we like to empower women, and we're all about equality. And I explain to them the trying concept and what we do, and that's generally how I try to get the door open. Is just 100% honesty of who we are and what we do, and usually it works out pretty good. We're at least get a return phone call or an email, and we can talk about it. And it helps too when you take the economics out of it. I think a lot of the thing in soccer is you'll hear people say, "What's in it for me? How am I going to get paid?" And that's obviously that's not our model. That's not what we do because we don't get paid. We don't make money. We want to make money. And so when you take that element, when you take the dollars out of it, and you approach it from your heart, things can happen.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, would you have any like advice for clubs that are trying to reach out to pro clubs in their area, or maybe like different academies or even friendly clubs around them?
Oh, definitely. My number one advice is if you want to do something bad enough, you just go for it. You just do it, and you don't take no for an answer. And people laughed at us 5-6 years ago. Oh, they'll never. You remember, Steven? Talk, and I said, they'll never last. This isn't going to work. Well, we're still here. We're not playing this year. It's not our fault we're not playing, but what we do, it did work. But just keep trying. Don't give up. If you want to do something, and this is my dad always told me, you can be anything you want to be in life. And I always thought it was kind of crazy, but you truly can. You might not get exactly what you're looking for, but you can get what I like to say. You can get in the area code. You can get in the zip code. So when you identify something that you want to do, just go for it, and don't take no for an answer. Be that squeaky wheel, right? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. Politely, be polite, but don't take no for an answer. Show up at their back doors. Show up at their practices. Be visible. Be a part. Be polite. Don't be a stalker. But hey, please, sir, ma'am, can I talk to you? Can you see my email? Can you just give me 2 minutes? And just please, just 2 minutes, and I'll be gone. and be politely persistent. Don't be negative. Don't be aggressive, but be politely persistent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, where would this sport be in the country if we weren't persistent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
I want to finish off on a good note outside of amateur soccer. We got the Women's World Cup coming on. How are you and the family partaking in it? What are you guys trying to do for it?
Well, Steven, here we go. I think Shasta, here we go. Those that are familiar with Unity, Shasta, she doesn't play, but she does a lot of her media. She makes some great videos and shorts, and she's in the world of sports and television. So I think Shasta will be there, man in a computer doing some editing there at the World Cup, and I'm certain that Coach Ford, the Lioness, is headed to Australia and New Zealand to take it in. So Harley, I'm not sure, and Dane is up in GC right now with NASA. So yeah, as far as the Ford family, I'll be watching and cheering, and I know that at least 2 or 3 of the girls are actually going to be there. So that's pretty good. That's amazing.
Well, that's great to hear. We'll be watching as well, and I'm sure I'll be tweeting about it, and many others will. So, Mark, I just want to say thank you again. It was great, to talk to you. It had been a minute, so it's great to talk to you. Do you have any final thoughts for the pod?
Just final thought is, it is just great to be on your show. I hear the baby in the background. So, there was a void without you there. You were with us day one. You were the community, supported us, you stood by us, you waved our flag, and I can't thank you enough. I know our whole family, you are family. I mean, it's not, you are a Unity family. When you say hashtag Unity family. So to be, on your first show back is just a tremendous honor. And, if it's meant to be, we'll be back. The rainbow, the flag and Unity Army will get together and do what they do. And, that we will be back on the field again. But if we're not, we had a hell of a run.
Well, when and if you do come back, you're going to have plenty of unitics around the nation who are awaiting your return.
You just proved your OG right there. You were forerunners to Unity Army. So, all right. Thank you.
All right, Mark. Well, you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you around.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Well, that was a great interview. I'm always interested in what Unity FC and really any team that's trying to promote their players and everything like that. I'm always into it. That's why I like to support lower league soccer. So this is going to be our opening series here on the podcast. The first thing that I want to discuss is the open system, comparison to what we have now, which is a closed system. I know that can be contentious at times, especially when we bring into pro rel into play, but I kind of want to disregard that because let's just be real. If we did have an actual open system, like we're not ready to be able to have pro rel. So what I want to do is I want to look at open system from a few different angles. So I want to look at it from an aspect of what a club can be doing better and where they might have some problems because of, the federation and the structure that we're in. So some of those, from the club, we are looking at financial things. We're looking at the emphasis on marketing. Are they actually, doing their club justice on social media, but also in the community? Field availability. And then, like I said, we're going to go into the structural problems, but this isn't going to be a complaining session. We need to also, have thoughts about some of these solutions that we can actually have. What are some things that we can do as a club? And what are some things that we can do within the system to kind of help promote the coexistence of all these entities? So what we're going to take a look at here first is let's go ahead and take a look at what some of these clubs can actually do. Now, some of these problems that we've run into are obviously financials, right? There's so many different costs that come with it, from player registrations to equipment to field rentals to the actual purchasing into a league or purchasing your spot into a league. Some of those leagues, have yearly costs. Some of those leagues have expansion fees on top of and then a yearly cost on top of that. So, we need to. So when you are preparing for a club, these financial needs need to be looked at in a very broad spectrum. And some of the reasons why we fail as a lower league club, or that lower league clubs fail, is they don't anticipate the amount of costs or how hard it would be to actually go out and fundraise those costs. That's going to be huge. Like, what's your starting league? A lot of clubs don't want to be perceived as a Sunday league when they're trying to, or a club that plays in a Sunday league when they're trying to build a community club. But everything goes in steps, right? If you're really trying to create a community club, you need to start by getting a team together, to represent the community. You need to start going out to the community events. You need to just get out to the park. So that way you are seen around the soccer scene. And then you can start worrying about how you climb the ladder of different leagues. Start out with something regional where the costs are low. You can get your feet wet with everything that goes on in the community, build some of that, goodwill within the community, and that way you can actually get somewhere with your club. And since the financial obstacle is pretty much the biggest issue, is you really have to not underestimate the task that it's going to take, because a lot of these places, especially for a new club, a lot of these places that are sponsors aren't going to sponsor you if you are unsure about where your club's going to be playing, the schedule. I think you heard that right now when we talked to Unity FC. So you need to anticipate those costs so that way you can, plan ahead. And a lot of that goes into marketing. How are you marketing your club? It's important that when you market your club, you're looking at different aspects. Obviously, there's social. The great thing about lower league soccer, even though it is community based, there is a very broad audience who love amateur sports and who love amateur soccer. So they follow all these types of leagues. So being able to create a national presence on social media is huge, because it can be such an impact. And that's why when you create the buzz about your team, whether that's going to be through kits, scarves, like through the different merchandising, through streaming your matches, through communicating with different journalists or different podcasts or different things like that to promote, that's going to help online. But the most important part of this, piece is, of course, the community, right? How are you going to connect with the community? Because that is really like at the top of, it's really at the top of what you're trying to achieve, because it's going to have all those goals, right? Like, it's going to give you the financial stability. It's going to allow you to find, the fields that you need. And it all starts with being in a community club and marketing yourself online, but then starting to go out to, like I said, community events. You want to hold soccer clinics. You want to go to other soccer matches and, have a presence, whether that's like high school, whether that's, youth leagues, anything you can to show up to the soccer scene is going to be really important. So now let's look at some of the structural problems that really don't help with sustainability. Some of those problems are going to be coexistence with other soccer organizations, right? A big part of that is, if you're an amateur club, what's your relationship like with academies, right? That's families that, enjoy watching soccer. How are you getting them to your match? You're going to look at how are they dealing with pro clubs. If you're an amateur club, having relationships with pro clubs to showcase your players, but also give, an opportunity to show your fans your level of competition. So if you're, becoming friendly with local professional clubs in your area, you're going to allow camaraderie as well as rivalry, right? And that's going to help you, continue to build towards that club that, you want to be, that's sustainable. Another thing is going to be player availability, right? And this kind of goes into the coexistence part, because there's a lot of issues when you don't coexist with one another. You also don't want like your market share to go to someone else. All right. So one of the things that I want to kind of show about this like disconnect, a while ago, I had the opportunity to write an article about Milwaukee Torrent, and I spoke with owner Andy Davi about this, about some of the issues and roadblocks that he was facing with his club. And one of the things that he brought up, and then I started to hear more from other clubs, is this disconnection from the youth club. And I'll go ahead and put this episode in the show notes, because it's a pretty old article, so you would have to do some crazy digging to find it. So I'll go ahead and link it in there. But what he says right here, to read this quote: it doesn't matter if it's first, second, third, or fourth tier of US soccer, just make it accessible to kids so they get excited about soccer. If they get excited about it, they will want to play more soccer. Sometimes I get the feeling that youth clubs don't want the $10 to go to the Milwaukee Torrent, because they think they need to find a way to get those dollars into their club. Now, that doesn't just translate to, let's say, that $10. That disconnect in itself can translate to player availability, right? If you are a promising club or a promising academy, and you have a kid that gets signed to college, when he comes back during the summer, like, you want him back in your organization, right? Because everything that you need to do is to build this player, because it's almost seen as like the player is the property of that club, right? Like, I'm a club, I'm an academy, and I'm saying I put X amount of time into this person. This is my person. God, that sounds horrible, right? Like, it's a product, it's an asset, it's not like an actual player. Because if there was some sort of structure, having these connections from youth academies to amateur clubs just gives more of a pathway for these players. And then you don't have situations where you have academies creating clubs, and then amateur clubs creating academies, and you're really just competing, when there could be a partnership that can work. Whether that's even distributing like age groups or different, there's tons of things that you can work out with academies to make sure that you're not actually, hurting your soccer community by forcing players to one specific path or another, right? There needs to be like coexistence. Like, that's so important, to make sure that you have coexistence. So make sure you get down. If you want, you can read this article. It really talks about a lot of the great things that he's been doing and that he was doing in the community. It talks about his relationship with Bayer Leverkusen, kind of like his own development in soccer. So it's a great article. I recommend anyone to read it. Like I said, I'll put it in the show notes. So the next thing, of course, we kind of hinted at is player availability. When you have these hoarding from players from academies, it doesn't give you a lot of options. Since you don't have that relationship, it's giving you even less options. And now you also have college in the mix, so you really have an inconsistent roster. And I think what's important for clubs is to have players that they can build around, right? Like, if I have a club out here in the Inland Empire and I have a specific talent that I want to promote, I want to make sure I can do everything I can to say that this player continues to play for me. He played for X Academy. He went up. He's playing at college. And every summer when he comes back, he's playing with me. And it's like, that's how you build upon these community players. And that's how you want to keep going. Like I said, if I was in Inland Empire, remember, like, back in the day, Landon Donovan's from the Inland Empire. And if I was a club that, let's say, like, had that, like, I wouldn't want to build something up around a player like that. I wouldn't want it to be just like one season and then that player comes and goes. You need to be able to have these stories. You need to be able to have these players that other young players can connect to, but also just fans can connect to with how they lived, where they lived, what they did. It's just really important. Um, there's also monopolization of territories, right? Like leagues have territory rights, and while it is becoming looser, and a lot of clubs are, intermingling in the same communities or the same cities and regions, some of that is still gate kept by some of the older clubs and not necessarily so much at the leagues or at the league level. So just for example, um, there could be there is a league obviously that gives information to all of its owners, and they all vote on everything that's going on, right? And so with this league, they are given this information about a club that wants to join in their league that's in the same city of another one. So let's just say randomly it'd be Boulder, right? I don't know why I thought of Boulder, Colorado, but let's say it's Boulder, and this league is saying oh, I already have Boulder Sporting, and now Cool Boulder wants to come in. Why did I say Cool Boulder? But Cool Boulder wants to come in, and you can have one team say to the other, well, you know what? I don't want to be competing with that. I don't feel like I'm sustainable at this moment to be able to do that, so I'm not going to invite this competition. And if there isn't this unanimous vote amongst the people in the region, it's they can just scrap that. And to me, that's kind of confusing, right? Because you want competition, right? You want to make sure that you have something to grow against, not only on the field, but also in the office, in the back office. If you have a team that's killing it on the community service, it's going to force you to get out more. If you have someone who's signing the top talent in their region, it's going to cause you to go out and find a way to compete with that, whether that's coaching or something else. It's continuously, that competition is continuously make each club better. And that doesn't even mention the rivalry, right? Rivalry is everything when it comes to sports. The derby, whatever you want to say, the derby, I'm just going to say derby, obviously, but you need to have anything in your arsenal to promote. And that's scrapping for every opportunity, because if you aren't scrapping for every opportunity, you're going to miss out on potentially the one that's going to make your club in the future. And you can see that with some of these, clubs that I think we look at like darlings, right? Like Detroit City FC, scrap their way to the top, whether that's starting out in MPSL and continuing to build over time, working with the stadium, getting the players, the right coaches, the right staff. That's scrapping at every single aspect to make sure that they have an opportunity to hit the right chords with all their fans. Same with MPLS City, Milwaukee Torrent that we just talked about, right? Every chance you have to scrap for it. And no one's going to give you anything, and you really got to get at it. And that's how you build the respect, right? Then you can go to these other academies and clubs and show them the evidence of what you're doing. Sponsors, show them the evidence of what you're doing. And that's going to help build sustainability along the way. So I know I've kind of hinted at, some of the problems, but also, some of the minor solutions. But really, I want to just emphasize on the relationship building between amateur and pro clubs. The increased community exposure you can have from getting out to, the community events is going to help with building those bridges to other, soccer entities. You need to market properly so that way you can capitalize on sporting moments, right? If you do have a rivalry match and you get a 90th minute goal, you want photos, you want videos, you want to see the excitement, because that's what you're going to use to show passion for your club. But that's the moment that you want to see. So you have to make sure that you're making your club available to capitalize on those moments. You also need to build that strong community club. And like I said a million times, attend your community service events, even if it's just picking up trash on the side of the road, the block renovations and all the things that they do to all the things that's involved within a city for community building. You need to be there. You don't need to need a booth or anything like that. You just need to get there, get some of your players, get some jerseys, pass out stickers, just get out there, have some fun, and show the community that you're there. And after some of these events, people are going to notice who you are. Even more so, people like city council members and people who actually make really important decisions in your city. So you need to make sure that you're out there doing everything that you need to do. And also, and lastly, is going to be the creation of more interleague competitions. Next week, we're going to be talking about the U.S. Open Cup. This is a full episode on the U.S. Open Cup, from, the issues, kind of how we broke down today, to just match results as well. But more competitions like the U.S. Open Cup. We're seeing the Independent Cup come in, which is great because you have a mix of amateur clubs playing pro clubs. So there's more opportunities to grow. So as we continue to see these things, and I've seen a lot of these changes start to happen, we're going to continue to see a pathway towards having an open system. So I just want to say thanks again for listening. We're not going to have any match reviews for this match week, just because we're looking at some of the other leagues starting within May. So some of these match reviews for the next few weeks might be kind of light, just because of some of the options that are available to watch. Also, I'm going to be little by little creating just kind of like a Google slide or Google sheet or something that we can track clubs where they might be streaming. So that way, if you're interested, you can watch along, because I'll be posting what I'm going to be watching, and I want to make sure you guys can follow along if you're interested. So again, thanks for stopping by. Of course, you can always follow me at SteveOFC. My name's Steven Ramirez. Follow me at SteveOFC. Also follow us on Instagram and at Twitter at Pitch Perspective. Search us. And thanks again. Like, share, and subscribe. And see you guys next week.